And all join palms. Repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to Intro to Buddhism and Meditation from the Dharma Temple. Thanks for joining us wherever you are. I was taking a walk a little earlier today, and I had this just kind of thought that with most people pretty much locked in at home, most of your days, what an incredible opportunity and time to actually practice being with yourself. And even if you're surrounded by, if you live alone, you're physically by yourself, and that's it for the most part. If you're with, friends or family, loved ones, whatever it might be, then you're with them as well. But for the most part, you're alone a lot right now. And what an opportunity to be with the one thing that brings all the joy and all the happiness and all the sadness and all the sorrow into your life, which is yourself. And it's interesting from the Buddhist perspective. There's a lot of the Buddhist teachings really center on the fact that there's no inherent self, and that this idea of a self is really just an illusion, meaning that we have a name and we have these families and these jobs or these things we do, and that is what creates who we think we are. But all of those are really just aspects and pieces of what we do, but that's not who we are. And the Buddhist teachings, as I understand it, is really recognizing that the story of who you are isn't at all who you are. So that's where the illusion comes in. It doesn't mean you're not real, it just means you're different from how you perceive yourself to be. And one of the really great teachings I've found on this path is to begin to recognize what is that self that we feel we have created? What is that identity? What is that ego? What are those labels or those stories? Who is it that you think you are? And that's what we have to learn to be with. And again, that's what we have right now is an opportunity to be with that self. And one of the, I think, common Buddhist teachings or expressions is you have to get to know the self before you get rid of the self. So often I refer to Buddhist teachings as like a mirror, where you're holding up a mirror, you're looking at it, and it's just pointing back at you. So this is that time. You have that mirror. You have that opportunity to reflect on who are you? What do you sit with? What are your thoughts? What are your emotions? What are your feelings? What are your actions? There are, in many ways, less distractions, less things to escape to. And there you are, just stuck with you. So hopefully being stuck with you is a good thing. It should be a pleasant thing. It should be an enjoyable thing. But be grateful for the opportunity you have to be with yourself these days and see what you can learn from it, see how you can grow from it. Defaulting into complaining and trying to want things to be different doesn't really help much in a situation like this. We all want things to be different, but they're not yet. So learn to enjoy this time just being with you. So with that, we'll start with the meditation practice. A couple things to tell you before we begin, especially if you're new. Nothing's going to happen to you. You won't float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long won't shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working? Is it not working? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. Don't expect anything from this, especially if you're new. Don't sit there thinking, when am I going to have some grand aha moment or deep realizations? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the rooms you're in, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos and sounds, and this is the practice, learning to be quiet within all of that. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are on a cushion, it helps sliding to the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed. Your hands, they can be on your knees or in your lap, whatever is comfortable. If you're on a chair, just trying to sit up straight. Relaxing the shoulders also. Hands on the knees or lap. If you're on a couch, please try to sit up. Try to stay awake. You've had all day to go to sleep, so let's try to use this time to wake up. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, don't expect anything, but just sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. Start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Return to breath. Keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Letting go of expectation. Letting go of judgment. Just sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. And ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, steady, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit, hold the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakening. He was a human being no different than any one of us who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means for all of us, regardless of where we come from or what we believe in or where we think we're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's what we get. The practice of meditation is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way we responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This is not an easy practice. This is not necessarily fun. But this is a free practice. Meditation, Buddhist practice is free. It's sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everyone else you encounter every moment of your life. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything around us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. And in reality, not much change but us. So get to know that self that you think you are. Get to know your fears, your worries. Get to know what triggers you to be happy, joyful. Get to know these things and begin to see through them. Begin to see through the illusion that it actually is. We see something we like, we want, we crave. We think we get it and it makes us happy. That craving, that desire, that feeding of the self, that feeding of the ego, this is what causes our struggle and our suffering. The Buddha called this dukkha. The illusion is thinking that what we get actually brings us happiness. That's not what brings us happiness. What brings us happiness is our mind's reaction to everything. So anything we get, what we call good or bad, right or wrong, any moment, any situation, we can be pleasant in it. See through the illusion that tells you have to have all the stuff and all the people and all the places and all the money and all the houses and all the cars and all the clothes. See through the illusion that tells you need these things to be happy. Because you don't. See through the illusion of the fears that you have, the stories that you're telling yourself, the anxieties, the worries. These are all stories, all illusions. There's just you in this physical form, sitting, breathing, and learning to be present with everything as it arises. Ultimately, you recognize that that's all an illusion as well, but you gotta start somewhere. Give yourself time right now to reflect on your thoughts, your words, and your actions all day. So with that, I'd rather just stop and open up to questions. I always prefer to respond to questions that you might have, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. There's a chat box on the right side of the screen, most likely. So you can put your questions there. Travis here will read it. I'll repeat it, and then I'll respond. So we'll take some time now to just open up to your questions.
So Caddy shared that she loved your birthday email. She reads it daily. And she was wondering if you could share that wish again with the group tonight.
Sure. I should just read it. I mean, I know the heart of it. Trying to ponder how quickly I could find it relatively quickly, but the heart of it is that what I really want is for people to give all the love, all the care, all the attention to those around you right now. That's what I really want. You know, what you're referencing is, every year for many years now, year end and springtime, through this invention of this thing called Facebook. Some of you may have heard of it. They made it very easy to just click like 3 buttons. I'm not kidding. 3 buttons, and about 2 minutes later, and it launches a fundraiser. Many of you are aware of these for birthdays, and it's a beautiful avenue for organizations and groups all over the world to raise funds for beautiful causes. And so, as many people do, they use their birthday as a time. I think the essence initially was to kind of drive people away from giving gifts and using the resources that they had to actually support places and organizations that they loved. So a few clicks in and you launch a birthday campaign, a birthday fundraiser. And as I said, I've done this every year for many years now. And this year, I'm backing up a bit, but I just want to give it some context. This year, with everything that's going on and the pandemic we're in, I'll touch on this too, I guess, but I really struggled because I understand how important things like this are for a place like this, especially since we've been closed since March 12th. But I even drafted a couple campaigns like I normally would, and something in me just didn't feel right sending it. I'd written it a couple times, I reworded it, and I was trying to see how I felt, and I sat with it. And at the end of the day, I could not bring myself to quote unquote launch a fundraising campaign during the pandemic and dealing with COVID and everything that's going on. It just didn't feel right. So instead, I sat down and I wrote, which I think I will read it. At the risk of sounding however this may sound, I just wrote, and I'm not a writer. I always say I'm not a writer, but I just wrote it in one sitting. There wasn't editing. It wasn't crafted. It was just a pouring of my heart about how I felt and what my birthday wish really was at that time. And I may have gone back and tweaked typos and things like that, but I just really wanted to express what I felt, and actually part of why it was so challenging for me to do a campaign. I could probably pull this up relatively quickly here. Give me a second, and I'll just read it. Oh, wrong email, sorry. Give me 3 seconds. So I'll read it to you all. Every year for my birthday, I hold a spring fundraiser for the Dharma Temple to help with operating expenses. However, this year it just does not feel right to ask people for donations. I've sat with this every day for 2 weeks. And every day I have the same thoughts, and I've decided on a different birthday wish this year. And this was, my birthday was April 16th, so this was going back, I guess, about 3 weeks now. This year as a birthday wish, I ask you to please love people more than you have ever before. I ask you to forgive someone you don't want to forgive, including yourself. I ask you to be kind to strangers and those you may not like so much. I ask you to spend more time focused on things in life that are truly important. I ask you to give everything you can helping to help your family, friends, and the community around you to be healthy and safe. I ask you to be honest with yourself and others in your daily life. I ask you to be patient with yourself and others as we face difficult times. I ask you to work hard at staying healthy and safe for the benefit of all beings. I ask you to cultivate a daily practice of meditation to help keep your emotions steady. I ask you to open up to the beautiful wisdom that sits within us all when we no longer live from a place of greed, anger, and ignorance. As I sit here at the Dharma Temple on the 3-year anniversary of the day we acquired our new home after 10 years of being downtown, it brings me great joy and honor to have been able to lead this community for 14 years. We may not be together physically, but each of you is here in the temple every moment. You have all played an important part in creating such a welcoming and sacred Dharma temple. And I say thank you. All of us practicing compassion and wisdom is my greatest wish. With love, me, co-founder of the Dharma Temple. That was my wish. That is my wish. That's, I think, really my wish every day, that I learn from, first, my parents, which of course I ignored for 30 years of my life as far as them trying to tell me how I should be. I didn't ignore all of it, and then Buddhism came around and it gave me a construct and a framework and a set of guidelines and teachings, and I latched onto it and attached to it, and I said, yes, that's how I want to live my life. And ultimately began to realize that all I was doing was cultivating and embodying the practice that my parents had taught me every day for the last 45 years. So it's really interesting that for me, on my birthday, I learned my first teacher, Venerable Yizhe, a Taiwanese Buddhist nun. She used to always say, on your day of birth, you should celebrate your mother for the pain and joy, of course, but the pain that she went through to bring you into this world and to give you life. So every year on my birthday, I celebrate my parents. I'm grateful for them. And it's a reminder to just appreciate those that gave you life from the start, and that those really who give you life every day. And so Buddhist teachings gave me the framework, but all it did was remind me and bring me back to everything I learned as a child. So that was my birthday wish. I'm glad it has inspired you and touched you in a way that you're still reading it. So thank you.
Brittany asked, I'm thinking of transitioning from Christianity. Where should I start for more information? So
the question was, I think I'm transitioning from Christianity. Where should I start for more information? I love these questions, and I'll kind of sum it up. You know, we opened 14 years ago, as I mentioned, the Dharma Temple to introduce Buddhism to local folks. And when I say local folks, what I really mean by that is people that come from different religious backgrounds other than Buddhism, which is probably 95% of the people come to the Dharma Temple. So on any given night here, there could be 70, 80 people, and if I ask, give me a show of hands of how many Buddhists are in the room, you'll see like 3 hands. And what that means is the people that tend to practice here and have been drawn to Buddhism, or specifically Dharma Temple, they're not Buddhists, they're Christians, they're Catholics, they're Muslims, they're Jews, they're pagans, or the lack thereof. They may have a very, very poor taste of religion in their mouth for whatever reason, right? So I think most important is to understand that being Buddhist isn't about being Buddhist. My master always said, it doesn't matter if you chant the name of Jesus Christ or you chant the name of the Buddha. What matters is in what's in your mind and what's in your heart. And I really want to start with this first before I give you maybe some references, is that practicing Buddhism isn't about leaving one thing and entering another. From a Buddhist lens, so the Buddha himself lived 500 years before Christ, without getting into the history of it. So he was human. The Buddha was Siddhartha Gautama, born in India 500 years before Christ. Jesus was human, right? The Buddhist lens typically refers to Jesus as a bodhisattva, a fully enlightened being. So fully enlightened beings would say and teach and do some pretty incredible things. So Jesus was an incredible human. Any problems that one may have with Christianity, or any religion for that matter, very rarely has to do with the actual teachings themselves. Sometimes it does, and I'm not going to get into that tonight. It's not even my place or my practice or my study. But I'm convinced, as a Jewish kid, the little that I know about Jesus and the words that he spoke, if I lived every day by the words of Jesus Christ, I would bring so much joy into the life of myself and those around me. If I live every day following the words of the Buddha, I'm convinced that I would bring so much joy into the life of myself and those around me. So I've watched years of people, thousands of people come to the Dharma Bum Temple who have been leaving their religion. I always think of the old REM song, Losing My Religion. But I've watched people think, I'm going to leave one religion and jump into another. Jump into yourself, the same self I'm talking about that doesn't exist. Get to know you. Get to know what you love about yourself and what you don't love about yourself. Get to know what you love about Christianity and what you don't love about Christianity. Get to know what you love about Buddhism and what you don't love about Buddhism. Get to know what you love about the neighbor and what you don't love about the neighbor or the stranger. It's, I think, dangerous, and I say this always, not just because you're bringing up the question, to think that one religion is going to fix us or change us or make us better. The only thing that fixes you or changes you or makes you better is you. And there are plenty of words in all religions to teach us that. All religions, for the most part, I believe, at their core are really beautiful. What makes them potentially toxic or dangerous are the people and places and things that are done around the name of a religion. I always say here at the Dharma Bum Temple, we don't talk religion and we don't talk politics. These are the two things that divide people and places and countries and worlds and start wars. To me, being a Buddhist means be kind, be compassionate, be loving, be forgiving. It's really everything I wrote in that birthday wish. And again, just about everything that I wrote is taught in all religions. So as far as references, Buddhist teachings, there's so many books out there. Lotus in the Stream, or Core Teachings. Lotus in the Stream was translated by Tom Graham, written by Master Xing Yun. Core Teachings of Buddhism, also by Master Xing Yun, I think are beautiful introduction to Buddhism books. You can just Google Intro to Buddhism, you'll find a ton of stuff out there. Look at the Four Noble Truths, look at the Eightfold Path, look at the Six Paramitas. These are core teachings you can find for free on Google. We at the Dharma Bum Temple, that's what we're here for. We are a resource for people to begin to learn about Buddhism. Every night, different classes with different traditions of Buddhism being shared. So I think you are beginning. You're here. Somehow you ended up following this and asking this, following this, YouTube thing and asking this question. So you've already started. And again, to sum it up, I'm not actually pointing you in a direction away from one thing and towards another. I'm pointing you in a direction that points right back at you. So that's where you begin. But I'm glad you're here and I'm glad you asked the question.
Evie shared, first time here, it is really hard for me to practice meditation alone. The stay-at-home isolation is taking a toll.
So thanks, Evie, for the question. You're saying it's really hard for you to practice meditation alone, and yet the isolation is taking its toll. And the isolation is taking its toll. So what's ironic here is that any stories I've read of great, the Buddha himself, great masters, great teachers, great yogis along the way, many of them have done years of isolation to train the mind to be present with things as they are. Here we are locked up in our comfort, the comfort of our own homes. Not all of us. Some of us have more privilege than the others. But here we are in our comfortable house with our comfortable couch and our comfortable TV and our comfortable refrigerator stocked with food and Amazon showing up at our door daily. We have all these comforts, and yet we feel isolated. And we've only been doing it for 8 weeks, roughly? And we call that complete isolation. You're not in isolation. You're with yourself. That's not isolated. The heart of this practice is being with yourself. It's a story. There was a monk at the monastery where I lived in Taiwan. Young monk. He was raised in the monastery. And in his mid-20s, he had, he's human. Monks and nuns are human. And in his mid-20s, as a monk, he started to have attraction towards somebody. And as a monk in this tradition, any sort of relationships, physical contact, sexual admiration, desire, as a monk and nun in this Buddhist tradition is not okay. It's frowned upon. And so he started to have these feelings towards someone. So he wanted to remain a monk. And what the master did was gave him 2 years of living in the meditation hall to be with himself. What a beautiful opportunity to train the mind to cut through craving, to cut through desire, to cut through temptation, to cut through greed, to cut through anger, to cut through ignorance. What an incredible opportunity to cultivate wisdom and compassion, being with yourself. What are you isolated from? Your mind is where it all begins. All the things we see and taste and touch and feel and smell, this is the Heart Sutra. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, or thought. The realm of the eye all the way up to the realm of mental cognition. All of these things that we think are so important to us, they're in our hearts and they're in our minds. We're not isolated from anything. We're not isolated from anyone. Everything is your perception. I understand you cannot physically hug someone that maybe you are separated from. But all that physical hug does is it sends into your mind this feeling and this sensation, this perception that the hug is what's important. What's important is what's in your mind and in your heart. And so now you're forced to have to be creative to how you can cultivate that feeling without hugging someone. Which is a great opportunity to cut through the illusion that says you must have physical contact to feel connected. Now, I'll admit that we've been doing these classes, here 2 months maybe, as far as YouTube live streaming with an empty meditation hall. And the first week, and I'm coming back to your question, hopefully. The first week, it was really strange for me because I was trying to pretend to connect with people on the floor, and my eyes were roaming to where people would sit, and I was seeing people that normally sit in certain seats. And then the second week, I was I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to stare at the little dot on the Johnny 5 camera thing, Short Circuit movie. Thanks, Megan, for the reminder of the name. And so then I was just staring at this little white dot. I didn't really feel connected with people. But after the first few weeks, part of my practice has been to connect intimately in my mind and in my heart with every single person, whether it's 1 or 1 million. It's not 1 million, trust me. But however many people are sitting there right now, can I intimately connect with every single one of you in my mind and in my heart by staring at this tiny little white dot on the camera there? And for me, the answer is yes. I can't see you. I don't know what you look like. I don't know who you are. Travis will read a name. Maybe I'll have a guess if I know the name of who it is. I can't hug you. I can't see your smile. I can't see your frown. I can't see your cry. I can't see anything. I don't even know who you are. I'm sitting in a completely empty room, as we know it, other than Travis. And yet I feel so intimately connected to every single person sitting there right now. I am not isolated from any of you. What you learn to do is stop isolating yourself from yourself. You're isolated from yourself. That's what's going on. Isolation is a separation, I feel like. It's feeling like you're distanced from. I'm isolated from people, places, and things, so I can't go there. And I feel cut off. Learn to be, I don't even know the opposite word of the isolated. Whatever the opposite word of isolated is, learn to be that with yourself. Maybe it's connected, I don't know. And then you'll feel connected to everyone and everything. Cut through the illusion that physical form is what matters. Again, this is the Heart Sutra. The idea of having a difficult time meditating at home, I get that. We are conditioned to be at certain places or hear certain people or sit amongst others. But I promise you, if you practice what I first spoke about, then the meditation most likely won't be as challenging, because then when you sit and your eyes are open or closed, you sit with everyone. You're not alone, you're not isolated. You're completely connected. You're not one with everyone. You're not all the same, but you're connected to each unique individual that you know and love. So, isolation is an illusion just like everything else. The grand illusion, for those Styx fans out there. I would usually look and laugh at Mark and Nancy right now because I know they like Styx. If you don't know Styx, you don't know the Grand Illusion, it's a great song. Check it out. I hope that helps. On a conventional surface level, I get it. We're seemingly isolated from loved ones, and that's difficult. Find gratitude and appreciation for everything that you have right now, and that will help.
Eric asked, can you describe what the term Dharma Bum means to you and its application to the temple?
Yes. So the question, can I describe what the term Dharma Bum means to me and its application to the temple? So let me first describe what the word Dharma is. Dharma, at the beginning when we take refuge, in the Triple Gem, it's what's called Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the three jewels of Buddhism. Buddha, the human himself. When I bow and I offer, and for, I think it was Evie or whoever it was new, was it Evie who said she was new? But for anyone who has no idea what we did at the beginning, when we bow and take refuge, I'm not bowing down to the Buddha. I'm not worshiping Buddha like a god or anything like that. I'm taking refuge in what's called Buddha nature. The fact that the Buddha was human and lived and breathed and died, and we are human and we will live and we breathe and we will die. That if the Buddha could enlighten and awaken and figure out the cause of his suffering, we can too. So we have the same essence, the same Buddha nature as Siddhartha Gautama, where they called the Buddha. The Buddha is just a name, right? It was what they called Siddhartha, meant the awakened one. So we find safety, comfort, protection in Buddha nature that's within all of us. The second one is the Dharma. That is the teachings of the Buddha. It's what he taught for 45 years before he died, right? It's also Dharma, meaning ultimate truth, ultimate reality. But in this context, think of it as just the teachings of Buddhism. And then the third one we take refuge in is the Sangha. That's the community that we sit with. So that's Dharma. The word bum is the way we tend to, at least in a Western context, think of bum, which is really not an appropriate term. But whatever bum means to you. The word Dharma Bum comes from a book written by Jack Kerouac called The Dharma Bums. So when we founded this temple in the end of 2006, there were a few of us, and we, collectively we liked either Jack Kerouac or Bob Dylan or Buddhism or a lot of the things that people from what was known as the Beat Generation. We were a pretty unique, collected group of people, and we all brought different elements to it. And when we sat around in those first few days, and we decided we were going to open this place, and the idea was, thrown out. Well, the question was, what are we going to call it? And the idea was thrown out. Well, how about the Dharma Bums? Named after the book, The Dharma Bums. So that's where the name comes from. Literally, the book, The Dharma Bums, written by Jack Kerouac. Ironically enough, the Dharma Bums, it's a decent book. Someone asked me in an interview, I think it was the KCR interview that Ahmad did, and they just thought that I would be obsessed with the book Dharma Bums. It's a decent book. I actually think On the Road is much better. than the Dharma Bums. I don't even necessarily love the book Dharma Bums all that much. But a lot of what they believed and they wrote about and they talked about at the time in the 40s and 50s in America, of living in a world of work, produce, consume, buy stuff, throw it away, buy more stuff, throw it away, buy more stuff, throw it away. They saw a beautiful world that we could live in, and yet we live with so much greed and waste. And they loved Buddhism, and that's a lot of what was taught through Kerouac's books. He also lived a very unhealthy life and died very young. So we took the name of the Dharma Bums, and the name just stuck, and it's always been there. We changed it from Dharma Bum Center to Dharma Bum Temple because we wanted to treat, this was in 2008, so 12 years ago, we wanted to treat the Dharma Bum Temple in a proper, respectful way, which is very different from how we treated it the first year and a half. So I think the application to this place is that this is a place that's open to everyone. It embodies the idea of what I think the Dharma Bum nature actually is that it doesn't matter what race, what religion, what gender identity, what sexual orientation, what ability, whatever you and wherever you come from, just show up as you are. Whatever craziness you have, show up as you are, and you're welcome here. No one here is going to judge you. Actually, you will judge you, meaning you're humans who come here. So people judge each other. But as a place, you're not here being in a place where you're going to be judged by anyone for any reason. Just come as you are. When I say people will judge you, meaning if you go to a movie theater and you sit down, you're looking at the person next to you and you're thinking, what are they eating? Why are they chewing their popcorn so loud? Why is their shirt that color? Why are they looking at their cell phone during the movie? We all do those things all day long. So if you're going to come to a Dharma Bum temple just like this, the same things are going to happen. You know, how come that person's wearing that shirt? How come they are drinking a drink? How come they're making noise? These are just humans doing what they do. But I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully that helps. So unless there's one more, I'll wrap up there. All right, so we'll join palms as we close. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. So a few quick announcements before you jump off. Thanks for being with us tonight. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma Bum. We opened up this temple about 14 years ago, as I referenced, to introduce Buddhism and meditation to local folks, very often to people who are brand new to it. For me personally, I love introducing Buddhism to those who they don't know what it is. And so that's one of my greatest joys. We have classes every night, different people from different Buddhist backgrounds leading. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students. We just show up and we share our approach of Buddhism with those who are here. Every night we have different practices, as I mentioned. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're on YouTube. Tuesday, I do this class. Wednesday, Alex does a loving kindness practice, metta, and Thursday, Travis does Dharma Bum basics and meditation. Those are on YouTube. Everything else we do is on Zoom. Everything we do is free, always has been free. We're not free just because there's a pandemic going on. We're always free. So just show up online as you are. When we eventually open up, show up here as you are. Family Sangha, Recovery Sangha, our college group, our teenage group. We started again today, our afternoon Tuesday class at noon. We started our Day of Silence class, our Day of Silence retreat this past Saturday. So almost our entire schedule is up online now. So go to the website, dharmabums.org. You'll see the calendar there. Just click on it, and all the info on how to find us is there. Other than that, the best teaching I ever got was think good thoughts, speak good words, and do good deeds. So if you never explore Buddhism again, that's really all you need to know. and I just saved you a lot of time. So thanks for being here. Please be safe, be smart, and as places seem to maybe open up a little bit, please be safe and be smart. And I'll leave it at that. So thank you all.